5 Best Welding Rod for Thin Metal. Number 1, Simple Welding Rods. Check the description for price. The best features. It has a PSI tensile strength of 60,000 to 75,000. It comes in a pack of 10 metal rods. Most important part is to follow instructions. Works great for aluminum. Number 2, Alumaloy Welding Rods. Check the description for price. The best features. It comes with 20 welding rods. The brazing job are very good due to the flux. Its side tensile strength is 39,000. The welding produces very light slag. Number 3, FORNEY Welding Rod. Check the description for price. The best features, works on galvanized, rusty, and oily steel as well. It works on rusty and painted materials. It needs very little surface preparation. The welding produces very light slag. Number 4, HOBART Sticky Electrode. Check the description for price. The best features, it can be used for carbon and galvanized steel as well. Its PSI tensile strength is 60,000. It enables deep penetration without any hassle. This works in all position. Number 5, Blue Demon Brazing Rod. Check the description for price. The best features, this also provides an excellent flux for cleaning well. The brazing jobs are very good due to the flux. It provides around 18 to 20 sticks pure tube. It is a 3-in-1 solution rod. You're watching the product highlight of number 1, Simple Welding Rods.
You get used to using this stuff, it will become indispensable for repairs on cast aluminum, thin-walled aluminum tanks, things that are difficult and problematic to weld, the weld process. This is where it's at, let me tell you. So why would you want to use a brazing technique versus welding? Well, for starters, this has a very low melting point of 730 degrees Fahrenheit. Therefore, you can use just a simple propane torch to work with this rod. No oxygen, acetylene, or other exotic gases or mixes needed. Secondly, it's very easy to make a quality repair with this technique. It doesn't take hundreds of hours of practice to pull off a good repair with this. So what exactly can you do with this rod? Well, no flux is required to use this rod. You can weld with it. You can weld zinc-based metals. Obviously, you can use it to braze aluminum. You can solder galvanized metal with it without the use of any flux. When this rod cools, it is actually stronger than aluminum and harder than mild steel, making for a very tough repair when properly applied. It has excellent corrosion resistance properties, so you can use it on things like aluminum fuel tanks or aluminum water tanks. To give you an example of what can be done with this, I have taken a water pump, a cast aluminum water pump, and I've cut it into several sections. And I've also cut simulated cracks into this pump for us to repair and see. The first step to repairing a crack is to grind out the crack. You want to grind down all the way to the bottom of the crack to give you room to work in the brazing rod. In this particular case, I attached a mild steel dam to give the brazing rod a place to flow to. Then, using a propane torch, I heat up the base material until the rod starts to melt on the base material. Moving the rod back and forth quickly, you will tin all of the faces you are trying to braze. Once you have the faces tinned, you will begin to fill the crack, working the rod down into the crack as far as possible until some actually comes out the bottom of the crack. Once everything solidifies and cools, you may pull off the metal dam and grind the repair smooth. As you can see on my repair, I failed to tin the metal dam, the mild steel dam I had put in place. Therefore, it did not flow all the way to that particular part of the mold. Had I been a little more careful with my application and worked it further down toward the dam itself, I would have gotten better results. But as you can see, the repair is barely noticeable. It is harder than the surrounding metal, and it is ready for service. Let's take a look at another scenario where you have stripped the threads on a cast aluminum part. And you can go the whole helicoil route, but I actually think it's easier to drill the stripped hole slightly larger than the bolt it's supposed to go into. Start preheating your workpiece, and I put a few sections of the brazing rod into the hole itself to give me an idea of what my temperature was, because when they start to melt, I know I'm reaching the 730 degrees I need to start working with this product. I also place the bolt near my heat source so that everything comes to temperature at the same time. Once you have a molten pool of triple play in the hole, insert a hot bolt into the hole. You will see the triple play rise up and out of the hole. Wiggle the bolt around a little bit to make sure that the brazing material is evenly distributed, and then allow the assembly to cool. Once everything is cool, take it over to a vise, put a big wrench on it, break the bolt loose. Now you have ready to use new threads. Clean up the face a little bit with a grinder, and it is good to go. It's a really handy repair. Repairing very thin materials is also very easy. I've taken the bottom of a soda can and drilled a hole in it to simulate a hole in an aluminum tank of some sort. Very carefully heat the base metal, moving the rod back and forth until I see the rod start to melt. I tin the surrounding areas, and then swiping the rod quickly across the hole, you will see the surface tension of this brazing rod is high enough that it will easily fill gaps of upwards of 3/8 of an inch with no backing material whatsoever. By trying to drive the repair out of the bottom of this can, you will see the can tears first before the repair itself tears. Let's go one step further. Let's go one step thinner. Trying to repair the side of a thin aluminum can would be extremely difficult with a welding process. I've drilled several holes in this can to simulate holes in a thin aluminum tank of some sort. And as you can see, heating the base metal very carefully, the holes are very easy to repair in much the same fashion. And also, when the repair is done, that area of the tank is now reinforced. So it's a win-win. To give you an idea of the tensile strength of this brazing rod, I'm going to braze this small aluminum bushing to this 1/8" aluminum flat bar. The first step always is cleaning your material and then gently heating up the base material until you tin both surfaces. Once both surfaces are tinned, set the aluminum bushing on top of the molten puddle, heat up the surrounding area until things become fully liquid, and then apply a light pressure while everything solidifies. Performing a quick bend test after things cool down, you will see the material bends before the braze itself fails. For this last demonstration, I will solder 2 thin pieces of galvanized sheet metal together with this rod using no flux. Same principle as before. Clean the base metal, apply gentle heat, and then tin both surfaces. Once the surfaces are tinned, lay them on top of each other. Apply more heat until things are molten, and then you can even build up a small fillet at the joint area. Once everything cools off and solidifies, you will see that the joint is quite strong and will actually pull the galvanized coating off of the steel before it fails. Before I tested this, I didn't even know stuff like this existed. I had very limited experience with brazing rod, and now that I have this in my shop, I can tell you it is probably one of the handiest products that I had never heard of. For more information or where to get this, check out Blue Demon Welding Products. And I thank you for your time.
You're watching the product highlight of number 1, Simple Welding Rods. You're watching the product highlight of number 1, Simple Welding Rods.
These flux core aluminum welding rods.
You're watching the product highlight of number 1, Simple Welding Rods.
I think we might be able to use them
You're
to
watching the product highlight of number
repair
1, simple welding rods.
holes in aluminum condensers. If I can do a beer can, I think we can do a condenser. Pretty thin.
You're watching the product highlight of number 1, simple welding rods.
Please subscribe my YouTube channel.